Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be taking a look at California. This is the premium Tier 7 American battleship, and she's a real thick girl. There's really no other way to describe this ship. She looks massive. She's got that extra thick torpedo protection that has sort of been welded on the sides. It is similar, it's not the same class as the New Mexico, but it is similar to the Tier 6 with its 12 356mm guns on 4 gun turrets, but it has 8 extra secondary guns. And what does this end up doing? Well, this ship has one of the best AA ratings at Tier 7 that I have ever seen. It's better than the Colorado. It outclasses quite literally everything in its tier from an AA standpoint. This has closer to Tier 9 levels of AA at Tier 7. And you say, well, that sounds great. You better get it because you're bigger. You go a whopping 21.5 knots in the water. Extra slow, just the way I like my American battleships. Said no one ever. So to recap, this is a Tier 7 American battleship that has a top speed of 21.5 knots. It has 12 356mm guns on 4 gun turrets. It is an extra thick chassis with a little bit extra thick torpedo, but it's so big it quite literally can't fit through the Panama Canal. And it has amazing AA. It has like Tier 9 level of AA at Tier 7. And you know what? That is the selling point right there. You could get this uniquely designed, certainly uniquely designed ship. Its secondaries are very intriguing, but they lack the range to be of interest. So for me, I'm looking at this ship and I'm going, there is a possibility, I know, an audience that could exist here if they were to, I don't know, extend the range of the secondaries and make it sort of a secondary slow battleship for the Americans. Have we really seen that? Can't really say that we have, but it might be cool. And then you would get into the argument, well, you have to decide between your secondary range or your main battery range. And that's sort of one of the reasons why these slow American battleships never get a chance. But if any American battleship that's slow has a chance of being a secondary ship, this is it. It has equivalent power to the Montana at Tier 10 with its secondaries. Ooh, nice. We one-shot that Helena. I'm sure he's like, wow, what's the California? No one knows what the California is. Everyone who asks, it's like, oh, it's a test ship. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I can answer. Sometimes I completely miss the comment. But, yeah, California, it's New Mexico. That's at Tier 7. Doesn't really sound enticing. It has a potentially strong secondary setup, if for not having shallow range. And its AA is amazing. But it's an odd tier AA-driven battleship. We know what that means. If you've played the Texas or you've played the JB, you're not really going to face mini carriers. And I tried all night long to get a couple games, if I could, to give me any good expectation on what to expect from the ship. Oh, no. CVs, they don't exist. They're not in the queue. So, I'm left with just saying, well, it's a New Mexico with great AA. I would love to test the AA, but probably never going to get a chance. And there's no possibility of having the secondaries actually open up and show the full potential. I mean, look at the ship. It looks ridiculous. That's what we need to make as the primary. And I think if Wargaming goes, okay, it's a slow secondary ship for the American battleship line, it would work. It would be something that players would be attracted to. Those of us who've played the Massachusetts, played the Georgia, played the Ohio, you enjoy that trait. It's a unique trait that is finding its way more and more into the American battleship lexicon, but it's not something that we get to play very much, especially in a super slow battleship, which, let's face it, it's not going to be as popular as the higher tier American battleships. It's the one reason why I just can't, in good faith, recommend anyone play the early tier American battleships, because it's just going to be frustrating. The speed is the issue. Now, we could have a conversation about Is the speed appropriate now in this world where there's Soviet battleships that are 30 knots at tier 5, and the average battleship speed is definitely higher than that of the old Americans? And this is seemingly the same trait that we're always dealing with. Man, I really like American battleships, but I can't get over that speed. All of the CC chat, oh man, that California, she's real slow. Yeah, she is. She's real slow. And she's just slow. And it's going to drive people insane. Absolutely insane. But, you know, there is potentially cool traits here. Let's not just completely ignore that. And if Wargaming decides, hey, you know what, that sounds like something we could do, maybe that's the direction we push. But, you know, for my money, this is nothing new. This right here, me firing, dealing with the slowness, angling against enemies, I could literally be doing this in the Arizona, my counterpart right here. I would much prefer something that moves it towards a secondary ship than, oh, it's really good at AA. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you how that plays in 2 weeks when I play one CV game at tier 8 or tier 6. This isn't tier 4 where every single game is a CV because it's broken, okay? We're dealing with players that don't want to take a risk. They don't want to just be a useless ship in a game that's already done, you know? And I think the CVs themselves, they suffer the most from an enjoyment standpoint when the games are blowouts. They absolutely do. And you know what? That's just the nature of the game right now. So as far as I'm concerned, the California, it has an interesting trait, and then it could have a second interesting trait. Visually, she's very interesting. But I wish that Wargaming would have put some more effort on the secondaries. I know they're afraid to extend the range of the secondaries because secondaries are sort of an easier skill to use. It's not, you know, you just move into range, and once you're in range, your secondaries are firing. And the fire chance on these secondaries is 11% by default. So you could imagine if you could get your secondaries out to 9 or 10 kilometers, that would be doing a lot of work. And it might look pretty cool doing it too, based on the ship's design. But we can't test that right now. So I'm just theory crafting on how to improve this experience, and I think that's where you go with it. I think visually, ship looks great. The setup for the guns, obviously the gun angles are very American. It works very well. And, you know, you can't overlook the fact that the AA basically is second to none. There's nothing better at this tier, AA-wise, than the California. And you could decide to swap out the scout aircraft for a fighter as well. You could set up the ship to be very anti-air. It's just the disadvantage of being on odd tier. That's where I feel it kind of suffers. And, you know, oh, we got torpedo protection, right? That's why this girl is so thick. Well, we still take a ton of damage. It's not Yamato levels of torpedo protection. Or even Kremlin, right? Kremlin's like 48 or 46. It's a silly number. But, yeah, we're over here dealing with just the slowness. And firing on cooldown, and we're going to get a chance to try out some high explosive. I would really love to kill that Alba. That Alba was... It's very annoying how these ships are able to get away, and I probably will, I hit an overpin. Okay. And he's just going to stay hidden, and I'm over here going, oh, great. I'll catch him. Never. Because he's a cruiser. He's a Japanese cruiser, and he can go like 32 knots. I'm 21 knots if I'm lucky. And then I consider, oh, well, you know, California is going to exist in a world with submarines. Submarines move at the same speed, if not faster, underwater. Picture that, you American battleship lovers who love that slow speed. Picture that for a second. Yeah. That's something scary as well. So yeah, overall with this ship, I think it looks hilarious, and I love that, and I could imagine the secondary experience. And I can also imagine the AA experience, but, I mean, we exist in this world too. You guys are very aware of this. My North American AA, they're basically extinct. Very rarely do I run into them at these tiers. Tier 4, well, that's a different story. But yeah, you know, the great features that this has unique to it, they're not really being used. And I just think that, you know what? That's okay. You don't need to throw everything at this to make it like the best thing ever. You could just leverage what's already there. And I think that overall players would be like, okay, that works. It's not gonna win games the same way that a North Carolina or a Colorado or West Virginia can do. But at least it does something. Something of note. Good high explosive salvo, right? The 12 guns is an advantage when dealing with DDs and ultralight ships. You don't overpin nearly as much as the 406s in the Colorado. Colorado is a battleship killer. You know, that gun caliber is so big it overmatches the bow and stern. This one does not, which is a clear disadvantage. And if I wanted to take this into a competitive, what good is anti-air in a tier 7 rank game? There's no point to having an odd tier AA spec ship. I kind of feel that way with the Texas, because that's exactly what it is. I feel like when I go and play the Texas, I am never rewarded to be that AA bubble for my team. And it's been especially nerfed into the ground from a range standpoint. So I could rant for days about the way Texas AA has been changed and what it means for the game. But suffice it to say, I don't really enjoy odd tier AA specialized battleships. They don't really get to use that feature. And if that's the only feature of note, well then don't you dare touch it. Don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But if in version 2, they take the criticism, they consider, okay, well, you know, it is a slow ship. It does have a quirky secondary setup, so maybe, you know, we extend the secondary range and we say, oh, well, this is another American secondary gun range. That right there, you're going to sell it just on that. People buy the Georgia and the Massachusetts and the Ohio just to experience American secondary guns. They enjoy that. So would stand to reason that a tier 7 that would do something similar, that would be pretty popular for them. Just saying. But at this version, there's no benefit whatsoever. You can't possibly go a secondary build and have any hope of it being halfway decent. You can't. It's useless. You're only a long-range gun platform. And yeah, I would love to say anything else about the California, but that's it. You're a thick New Mexico that has been up-tiered. Not really compelling enough. Exactly. Not compelling enough. So we're going to leave some feedback. Hopefully Wargaming listens and gives us a little bit of a bone with the secondaries. I think it's definitely something that they could explore. And honestly, the ship is weird in appearance enough that I think that plus the secondaries and the AA would be enough to get some purchases out of players that wouldn't have normally picked it up. So that's version 1 California. We'll see if Wargaming takes the feedback. Other CCs have complained about very similar traits, so we'll see. Hopefully something good will happen from it. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You could also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World of Warship videos, first impression, how-to, news, and review related. My North American recruit invite is on the screen. You can take advantage of that. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.